it's easy to find work like that. To find another. The truth must be told, Oga says you must come in. You must come in.
I refuse to comment.
To the truth, Abby.
And it's showtime. Time to dive into Freshly Pressed this Tuesday morning on the Smooth Breakfast here on Smooth 98.1. We love music and we love life. A very, very interesting start to the morning. It's 32 minutes past 7 a.m. the 17th day of February 2026. And my name is Ayokunmi Kekireku. Great to be here with you once again. It was a pseudo rainy morning, if I can put it that way. It rained very briefly this morning here in Victoria Island. I don't know if it rained anywhere else where you were, about 15, 20 minutes or thereabouts, I think. And then it stopped. Hopefully, it's going to be clear skies all the way from here. Looking forward to having a great time on the radio with you as always. So do join us on WhatsApp and join us on YouTube as well to share your perspectives on the stories we're talking about this morning. So all you need to do is to get in on the action. YouTube, you can find us streaming at Smooth 981 FM Lagos, Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Leave all those comments there and we'll get to them ASAP. And WhatsApp number, it's 0911 0981 Those are the ways you can be part of Freshly Pressed this morning. Welcome in once again. All right. Joining me to take a look at the stories, analyze, and of course, just to give us some much needed perspective on the issues is Mr. C. Mr. C, good morning to you. Welcome in.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Lagos.
All right, let's begin this morning. We shall be picking up sort of from where we stopped yesterday, talking about Mr. or Madam Nasser El-Rufai, as he is popularly called. We'll step into the punch for this one, and it says the federal government has filed charges against the former Kaduna State governor. Now, the charges were filed before the Federal High Court Abuja Judicial Division by the Federal Republic of Nigeria as complainant and El-Rufai as a defendant. Now, according to court documents that were seen by a Punch Online, the prosecution claimed that on February 13th, 2026, while appearing as a guest on Arise TV's primetime program in Abuja, El-Rufai admitted that he and others unlawfully intercepted the phone communications of the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu. Now, a number of counts have actually been put here. I won't dive into that specifically because we started the story yesterday. Now, looking at what has been said here, I'm not exactly sure that those were the words that Mr. El-Rufai actually used, number one. And number two, February 13 was 4 days ago or so. I mean, how quickly was an investigation done to have charges filed?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ayo. So, like you rightly said, the interview was given or granted on the 13th of January. That was 4 days ago.
February. Yeah.
13th of February.
That was on Friday.
Yes, so that was 4 days ago. And boom, we have charges filed. For the charges to have been filed yesterday, the charges were filed yesterday on Monday, I believe. That means they were drafted over the weekend. Latest, maybe Saturday or Friday. Now, during the interview, the words Mr. El-Rufai used were someone who is privy to communication of the NSA told him certain things. Meaning the person came to him. Now, count one says he and others committed the act. He never admitted to committing any act. He said someone did something and came to tell him. So it's like a priest, right, who receives a confession. And the person who's doing the confession says, I went somewhere and I stole. Then you then say you're going to charge the priest and the accused person together. Now, the second charge as listed on the charge sheet is that they unlawfully intercepted the NSA's phone communications but failed to report them to relevant security agencies. sincerely they have the evidence. It's like you rightly asked, if the interview was only granted on Friday, did an investigation, you asked the question, when did the investigation end? My question is, when did the investigation start? Because you are alleging certain things. You are alleging he intercepted communication, meaning that before the courts, you have to provide evidence of the equipment or methods that were used to intercept. He did not intercept with a calabash or sponge. You also need to lead evidence on where this interception took place. According to the charge sheet, they allege it happened in Abuja. You also have to provide date or dates when this said unlawful interception happened, and you have to identify the other people. Then, more importantly, who actually carried it out. So there's a who, there's a when, there's a where, there's a how. 4 key questions need to be satisfactorily answered. And remember, because this is a criminal trial, it is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. The bar is quite high. Now, are the Nigerian security authorities convinced that if they did carry out an investigation, they've gotten all they need before the charges were filed? Now, in some schools of thought, the question was arise, is this a ploy to keep Malam El-Rufai occupied ahead of the campaign season and the elections next year? That's all politics. But the real question is, serious allegations have been raised. I do hope that he gets his day in court because he's actually a law graduate. He has an LLB. I do hope he gets his day in court and he's allowed to put up the best defense he can. And then the courts will decide it one way or another. But it'll be instructive to see the quality of evidence and the quantum that is placed before the courts. Now, like I said yesterday, interception of communications, be it messages, SMS messages, WhatsApp messages, internet messages, phone calls, video calls, are unlawful without a court order. I made that clear yesterday and I repeat it. Even for the state authorities, they must have a court order. And the court order will be predicated on evidence showing why there's a probable cause or reason for them to intercept. So it's instructive that we all play by the rules. Yes, I understand the political angle, but now that you filed the charges, be prepared to go on with them. And we don't want a situation where the case starts, then it's the federal government applying for adjournment. Because the whole idea behind filing charges is, from the moment you file the charges, you are good to go. It is usually the defense that seeks to slow down. And in serious countries, the moment they show you the charges, you know it's a wrap. But over here, they file charges and then they first file the charges, then start looking for the evidence. I've never understood that pattern. I've never understood why they do that. Look at the trial of Diziani. It took the British authorities over 10 years to formally start a matter. And even that matter, we hear they're bungling it on a day-by-day basis. You cannot substitute preparation at any point in time. You must prepare. Get your facts in place. Make sure you have all the evidence before you proceed.
Let me take a comment here from YouTube. This is from KY Komo, who says, is Mr. C saying that self-admission is not admissible in court? He did not say those things under any form of duress or influences.
So, what are you calling an admission? He never admitted to any illegal act. He said someone did someone who is privy. He did not even indicate how the person is privy. We mustn't jump to conclusions. We must read, listen, and understand the words that were spoken. Don't inject anything. Don't add in anything extraneous. What were the words Mr. El-Rufai said? Someone who is privy to the communications. So how is someone who is privy to the communications now amount to an admission on Mr. El-Rufai's part? Even if you have an agenda, make it make sense. If he admitted to anything and any listener heard it, I would like to see what he admitted to.
Well, at the end of the day, the government has filed these charges surprisingly quickly, and it's definitely up to them to prove, as Mr. C said, beyond a reasonable doubt that what happened or what they allege happened actually happened the way it happened. But it will be interesting to see if there is no political angle to this one. Election season is very, very much a part. Is this supposed to be some sort of distraction to tie down Mr. El-Rufai? I mean, bearing in mind that he also has another case that he's answering to right now, the allegations of 423 billion naira thereabouts disappearing and so on and so forth. I mean, he was grilled by the
EFCC.
FCC for a couple of hours as well. So he has a lot of it on his hands at the moment. We will be looking out for developments to this story. It's clearly not the end of things by any stretch of the imagination. All right, let us move into another story here. We're still staying in the Punch, where it says the United States has frozen the assets and properties of 8 Nigerians accused of having links to the Islamic sect Boko Haram and the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. This was contained in a 3,000-page document dated February 10, released by the United States Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control and cited by correspondents on Monday. Now, the document also identified individuals sanctioned for cybercrime-related offenses and other security threats. Mr. C, what's going on here?
So what's going on is the United States is accelerating its efforts to put a huge dent in the war against terror. Yes, there are schools of thought who suggest, or there are conspiracy theories which postulate that the United States is behind some of the terror groups that are tormenting the world. But they've identified 8 individuals for various reasons, including funding and supporting terrorism, cyber-related crimes, and they placed them on the sanctions list. Now, what this means is that some of these people were convicted in the UAE a few years back, and presumably they're still serving out their prison terms. But what it is they've been unable to track down these guys to physically apprehend them, so they're placing sanctions on their assets and their cash. Now, assets, why I separated assets from cash is assets could be landed property, it could be movable property, and then you have cash. Cash too could be physical, it could be digital. So the US is saying, look, we're making it clear we're going after everyone. And when we identify you, we're going to cripple to a very large extent your ability to commit crimes against the United States and its citizens. Now, it's instructive to note that the Nigerians who were linked to the terror groups, a question arises out of it. Why do we always need foreign countries to identify people involved in acts sympathetic to or support? First, it was the UAE. Now it's US. Now, there was a list that was sent to us by the Buhari administration. It was a long list. What have we done with that list? If trials commenced, if they commenced, where are we with those trials? Have any convictions been secured? Were any people discharged or acquitted? Now, the Nigerian government here, what are their plans concerning Nigerians named on this list? Are they going to investigate them? Are they going to see if there were any crimes committed within Nigeria?
I mean, ideally they should.
So, in an ideal world, it should happen. But we don't live in an ideal world. Yes, we know that the government keeps saying that there are terror trials going on in army establishments in the Northeast. Now, these trials are not being publicized in the sense that we We don't expect to see a live stream, but we should get regular updates cases. We don't, it's crickets. We get X number, X number discharge. What are we supposed to do with that information? And this is a lesson to the Nigerian authorities. A foreign governments are very adept at identifying, funding, and supporting links or networks for these terror groups, and we are unable to do it for whatever reason. Why don't we approach the people who know how to do it to teach us? It's like a student in class. The teacher has taught you, clearly don't understand anything, but you know a student in front understood what was taught. What do you lose if you approach a student and say, look, sorry, I didn't get anything. Can you teach me so that I understand the way you understood? They make all these things look really complicated and complex. They're not.
Looking at the body language when it comes to the Nigerian government, talking about these individuals who are named here and there, for example, those on the UAE list, these individuals here. It, don't you, or do you think that the perception of Nigerian people towards what the government is doing or not doing would change if they actually picked up on this and said, oh, this has actually come into light now. We will look into this and we'll see it out to a logical conclusion, bearing in mind that the people are asking questions as to, is this government interested in fighting terrorism at all?
The people would gladly support moves like that if they see the government is serious. Now we continue to ask questions here and even off the show. How do non-state terrorist actors move in their hundreds with motorcycles, move all over the place? And then when camps are raided, you find solar panels as part of the equipment. So where are they getting their petrol from? Where are they getting their food from? Where are they getting medication from? Nobody's tracking all these things. Who's selling these bikes and vehicles to them? Even the guns, where are they getting them from? If we're serious and we truly trace the supply route, we will know who is supplying them with all these things. If you want to break an opponent, you must break the opponent's supply routes. If you do not do that, good luck trying. So, in wrapping up, our security agencies are trying. They've picked up under the new Minister for Defense, but they need to do a lot more work. Because that's the sad thing with their sector is 99 things will go well, will go unreported. It is that one event that goes south, everybody picks up. But we continue to encourage them, and we hope that they get increased funding, better conditions of service, and better support, and maybe we'll just see a change in the nature of the activities going on.
Talking about increased funding, we'll be jumping into the story, talking about that in a moment. Let me take a message here from WhatsApp. Daniel from Festac says, hello, Smooth. Good morning to you, Daniel. The biggest failure of this Tinubu government is the complete failure to provide security for all Nigerians and eliminate terrorism. We keep hearing names and identification of terrorists from abroad, but never in Nigeria. Why does the federal government protect the terrorist identities? I don't trust this government on terrorism prosecutions. They're obviously compromised. Tying it in with El-Rufai claiming to know interception of the NSA communication indicates the terrorists may have similar abilities. Scary times. Scary times indeed. All right, Mr. C, talking about funding, let's step into The Guardian, where a joint committee of the National Assembly on Monday expressed satisfaction with the 1.5 trillion naira 2026 budget proposal of the Nigerian Army, pledging to ensure the timely release of appropriated funds for its implementation.
Okay, so I'm not even sure. I don't know how to receive the story because the 1.504 trillion naira was not broken down into recurrent and capital. So we don't know what's going towards recurrent. We don't know what's going towards capital. Now, the National Assembly members believe that is a good sum. Now, when that is converted to USD, that's about $1 billion. Now, let us even say recurrent is 50%. I know it's going to be a lot higher. Let's even use the argument that it's 50%. So that means for capital expenses, they have about 500 million US dollars to play with. Now, given that a lot of the equipment they use, a lot, is not manufactured within Nigeria, is that sufficient for the army this year for all the things it's required to do? Now, this is 1.504 trillion going to the army alone. Naturally, questions arise. How much is the Navy getting? How much is the Air Force getting? Because the Army and the Air Force should actually work hand in hand. And then in the riverine areas around the Northeast, you join hands with the Navy. Then how much is the police getting? How much is the NSCDC getting? Because these are all valid questions, because we need to know whether they're being funded properly. Nigerians want to be guaranteed safety. Nigerians want an end to the activities of non-state terror actors. But are these sums being voted and approved the right sums? Time will tell. Now, more importantly, the head of the National Assembly team did say that they are aware that there's a wide gulf between approval and release of funds.
Exactly.
But that they will do their best to ensure that funds are released as at when they should be released. But this is very instructive. They will do their best. What does that entail? Writing letters to the Ministry of Finance, calling the Minister and Minister of State, because really and truly, money will only be released if there's money to be released. Last year, we heard horror stories from Works and Health that of the sums that were approved, the sums that were eventually released were minuscule. And it begs the question, with all the borrowing we did last year, 2025 alone, and these two key ministries are saying they got very small amount, where did the money go to?
Was the money there to start with?
Well, the money was approved. Monies were borrowed to fund the budget deficits. So how did these two important ministries end up getting next to nothing? Now, more importantly, we're already in February. The 2026 budget has still not been passed. We're in the third week of February. When will the budget for 2026 be passed? Because this proposal is for the year 2026. When will it be passed? When will the first allocation come out? We're not expecting the entire sum to be given to the army at once. Doesn't make any sense. But when will the first tranche of this allocation get to them? Will we be regaled with stories of Nigerian soldiers on the various operational fronts complaining about not getting the salaries and the allowances and the feeding conditions? I hope not. So, questions. Time will tell.
As usual, always a lot of questions. We never seem to get all the answers that we look for. Tony Nikeja on WhatsApp says, good morning, Ayo and Mr. C. The debate on the real-time electronic transmission of election results is about to expose the names and faces of the enemies of the Nigerian state. It's the bold line that separates the good and the evil. This is one debate that is clearly unmasking the modern-day demons subjugating the Nigerian state, thereby also revealing the identities of the few saints left. We can now judge ourselves without going to court. All right, Tony, thank you for your message. Talking about that, let us pick up on the stories concerning the electoral bill and the elections that are slated for next year, the back and forth over when they will hold. We'll step back into the Punch. And it says there are strong indications that the Independent National Electoral Commission and the National Assembly are going to move the 2027 presidential election to January 16, 2027, in a dramatic reversal of the earlier date of February 20th. Now, similarly, the governorship elections are also set to be brought forward to January 30, 2027. Multiple sources within the electoral body and the legislature confirmed on Monday. This particular back and forth over the dates for the elections. Mr. C, we're talking about this off the air, and I was making the point of the fact that Nigeria is supposed to be a secular state. So why are we allowing religion dictate when exactly these sort of things are actually determined? If we're saying, oh, we're moving the elections because of this particular faith, other faiths can go up and say, hey, you can't do this at this time because it affects us as well. Doesn't that muddy the water somewhat?
Mm. Okay, so here is the challenge. It's already been established that the initially proposed dates fall within Ramadan next year. Now, here are the dates for the Lent season next year. 10th of Wednesday, 10th of February to Thursday, 25th of March. So now you have the two major religions in Nigeria having holy months, and INEC has proposed dates that fall within those holy months. So it's no longer about one particular faith. It's not about the two major religions. So that's why they're now proposing the 16th for the presidential and the National Assembly elections, and the 30th for the gubernatorial and state houses of assembly elections. Now, like I said yesterday, for the love of everything good, why can't you hold all elections on the same day? You save money on agents' expenses because you pay them only once as opposed to twice. You pay INEC officials and volunteers allowances only once, not twice. You pay the security people allowances only once, not twice. Because think of the logistical nightmare or requirements. You have to pick up polling materials, election materials from a particular point, maybe the CBN office in the state. You then have to start trucking it all over the place to various parts of each state. So why not do all of that only once? Now, more importantly, in this arrangement, the new proposed day 16th and 30th, they've not factored in a runoff. They seem to believe a winner must emerge at the first time of asking. What if a winner doesn't emerge? What if you have a clear leader, but he doesn't cross the constitutional threshold? When do you plan to hold that runoff, given the dates for Ramadan and Lent next year? So we may then find out that these dates will still move again. Now, also, there have been proposals that between the date of holding the elections and the date of swearing, we should be able to get rid of the election petitions. With this date, I'm not sure we can.
Also,
So if we hold the election on, let's take the 30th, on the 16th, right? And there's a runoff. The runoff cannot be conducted before the gubernatorial elections. It has to be after. Now, after is the holy months for both religions. So when exactly are you holding it? Because any day you pick will be disadvantageous to both religions. So if you then say you're going to April to do the runoff, swearing in is on the 29th of May. And the election appeal process, you start with the tribunal, then you go to the Court of Appeal, then presidential, the Supreme Court, the final bus stop. So holding an election this year will not allow you to satisfy all of this, because we've said that we're tired of incumbents being distracted with petitions, not being able to focus, not knowing whether they're going to be in office or not. So why aren't the elections done this year? What do we lose? November, December. Okay, they'll say dirty December, they don't want to do elections there. Conduct the elections in October, November.
I mean, there was a proposal for that at some point.
So I don't know
that isn't to go anywhere.
I don't know why they're not following. Conduct the elections in October and November. You then have sufficient time to run through the electoral process, the appeal process up to the Supreme Court, so that by the 29th of May, it is settled. X or Y, A or B, is the president or the governor or the senator or the House of Rep member. It's concluded. And from day one, they're expected to hit the ground running. So that is what they know. So let's not be under any illusions. They know what to do. Whether they have the will to do what should be done remains an abiding question.
That remains to be seen. All right, let's take the messages this morning. Let me see who's talking to us here. This is Tony from Marine Beach who says, good morning, gentlemen. El-Rufai actually said someone tapped into the NSA's call and informed them, but ended up saying they think they're the only ones. They do it all the time. We can do it also. I think that's where he indicted himself. However, it's not today that we hear of a lot of leaks from the presidency. It's been on since the Buhari era. You recall how we read along from our phones when late President Buhari made broadcasts. The fact remains that the entire system is heavily compromised right now. We don't know who is who from the executive to the military, and that's not good for our national security. The US are just having a warm up. We'll start to hear staggering names from that list pretty soon. In the first place, I don't understand how our elections have turned to a mini war, and now the legislators are moving election dates for the reason of religious fasting, setting a very bad precedent. We go move higher. All right, Tony. I from Pestac says the Constitution says you can't hold elections earlier than 90 days to swearing in. Okay, okay. I need to check that to be sure of that as well. Benito says, um, good morning. In 2026, a la 1960, 6 years after the IC on the Android phone of 2026 is a million times faster, bigger in capacity, and intelligent, more than the first satellite that was sent to space in 1959, 1960. Talking about Sputnik. And today, INEC is saying that e-transmission of results is not possible in 2026 after many election experiences by INEC in years. What a country. Okay, that's his comments concerning the back and forth over the e-transmission. Tayo in just says, why do I feel like once the electronic transmission is passed, telcos will start experiencing technical issues on the day of election? I don't think the amount distributed to our forces can be compared to that generated by a certain gentleman, name withheld, protecting our pipeline in the south of the country. Thank you for withholding the name there, Tayo. Very much appreciated. This is from Delight who says, okay, let me see here. All right, Delight, thank you for the feedback. Very much appreciated. All right, we need to wrap it up, Mr. C. It has been, let me see, any moment. Okay, Ajay Olua sent a message in and says, good morning to you, gentlemen. Madam El-Rufai had it coming when he first raised the alarm that he was being targeted for arrest. And after the airport drama, he went on to compound his situation by admitting that the NSA personally ordered his arrest after his telephone conversation was tapped. Since he has been charged to court, let due process take place. Okie dokie.
Okay, so I'd like to thank the listener who sent in the extra words Malam Nasir El-Rufai said. And based on those words, my position changes because I didn't hear those words. Since he said we do it, or we have done it, or we did it,
we can do it also.
So he now has to lead evidence on those times he did it. Because he also needs to identify who the we are. So could he have been just seeking clout?
Grandstanding.
But now he's facing serious charges. His hands will be full because he needs to clear these charges. These are very serious charges that can lead to the loss of liberty for what, 20, maybe 20 or more years. So these are not minor charges. And that is, again, it's a lesson to everyone. Be careful about what you talk about. If he had just stopped at, oh, they want to arrest me, we'll just take it as the rantings of another Nigerian politician, and everybody will move on, including the ruling establishment. But once you move into matters of national security, be prepared to carry whatever they're given to carry.
And on that note, we have to wrap it up on the show this morning. This has been freshly pressed here on the Smooth Breakfast. Thank you so much for your messages and interactions. Thank you, Mr. C, for joining me. Always, always, always a pleasure.
Thank you, Ayo, for having me. Thank you, wonderful listeners. Let's go out and have a beautiful day ahead.
A beautiful day ahead is definitely on the horizon. Keep it tuned to Smooth 98.1, 815. It's all about entertainment and everything within that space in the grapevine. My name is Ayokunmi. Stay with us.
stories, the news, in-depth analysis of national current affairs. Freshly pressed.